networking. Woo! I brought all the tools of the trade. Let us prepare. Cry havoc and set free the cards of business. I got the finger guns ready. All right, I've been crushing tin cans all week. My handshake is set to debilitation. Let me just say what I know you're thinking. Ew. Ew, Paul, no. Why don't we start over? The real story of how I fell in love with networking starts on this campus. Many years ago, if there's anything I leave with you today, it's that is the default setting of networking that we all hate. Every time I ask people if network is important, they all say it's critical to career. Great, do you want to do it? No. And why? Because it is weird and gross, and those are the default settings. Probably one of the best books I've seen in the past decade is Adam Grant's Give and Take, because it helps us reset the default settings, the balance, and most of us know that it's mostly take. People pleasers, you're mostly giving. That's why very often we give and we give and we give until we burn out. How did I fall in love with networking? Well, it all actually starts in the mid-90s. My first day on campus, Frosh Week. And I came here seeking what all students seek: belonging, community, and free food. And we sought it out. This was my group of friends, and we've stayed together now for a number of years, partly because half of us married the other half. And in that first day is the person I now do call my life partner. And we've been together all these years. What about the free food? Well, we scoured campus always, hunting for alumni receptions and other things in which there would be food. But actually, our wonderful college, new college, hosted every single year a dinner learning about networking etiquette, hosted by the wonderful Leanne Pepper, the manager of the faculty club, who is herself an international master of business etiquette. And we went every year for the free food. But when we left with full bellies, we also left with full minds at the power of this incredible way to connect with people. Now, I'm going to leave you today, and we're going to start with the macro and move in, because this is really about you. But you know, I signed up to do this talk at a very different time in this city. We all know the weird stuff that's going on right now, and our politicians and other people are always wringing their hands. What do we do? And their answers are always the same: more studies. I got your study right here. If anybody knows the wonderful Toronto Community Foundation, they've been studying this for the past several years about the erosion of what binds us, and the currency is social capital. All these wonderful organizations that we know and trust, thousands of consultations, and the perspective of not just the single studies we often find, the separate studies of economy and civic and democracy, they're all together, and the answers are very much here. I encourage you to check it out. But we're here to talk today about you. And as we know very often, we're our own biggest problem. Right? The Stoic philosophers, Aurelius, Epictetus, Ryan Holiday, often tell us we can't control the world, only how we react to us. We can't control others. All we can control is ourselves. Or as our friend Taylor Swift likes to say, "Hi, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me." We got to work on that. And we know that there are different ways to do that. These are some of my favorite authors and people who have helped me with the mechanics of networking, the how. And it is important, and I will share with you, I've studied this for many years because, like a lot of people, I'm riddled with social anxiety, and I wanted to learn how to do it better. Not to manipulate, but to learn how to simply represent myself with confidence and not be embarrassed. But very many times people focus on the hows of networking as opposed to the importance of the why. And one of the most powerful frames for me is the work of David Brooke, who reminds us that we actually need to start focusing not on what the default settings of networking are, which is resume values. We need to start focusing on eulogy values. And he talks about how we want to be known when we leave this place. Well, let's talk about resume values. Oh, our good friend LinkedIn. I heard at least 2 E's there too. Nobody likes LinkedIn, and that's because, again, your settings are off. Most people's settings are set to job search mode. What happens when you have a job? We need to use LinkedIn and all these digital tools for better personal branding. Now, I'm not talking about what I actually do for a living today. I'm a generosity expert, and I have an incredibly cool job where I get to teach people how to give away money for fulfillment. And very often I'm working with financial, legal, tax professionals, many of whom are introverts, or let's use a better term, they belong to the thinking class. You know people who think before they speak. Well, these are the folks who often say to me, Paul, I don't want a personal brand. I just want to do my job and go home. Cool. I got bad news for you. You do have a default personal brand, and that's what people find when they Google you. And what they find is up to you. You need to give yourself permission to not define that brand of what the world says you do, and start exploring about how you represent yourself and how would you say what you do. These tools can be helpful and powerful, and they've evolved. Many of them are 20 plus years old. We've evolved how we think about medicine. Again, I grew up the children of immigrants. My spouse is Filipino. Both of our backgrounds think that Vicks Vapor Rub is the solution to all medical problems. And many people think that LinkedIn is only about job search. Its evolution has been incredible. Who here is sick of people mispronouncing their name? Well, you can record your name on LinkedIn. It's right there next to it. These are the small ways in which we can help each other connect. It's a really powerful tool. I'll tell you, one of my other things is Google reviews. Again, I don't have bad ones. Remember your mom said if you don't have anything nice to say at all, you don't have to say it? Well, that's for Yelp. But many times when I want to thank a business that's been incredible, has hosted my friends or family or my career, my colleagues, great reviews are a way to show love for business, love for community. And every once in a while, is there a comp where I'm met by, a hotel manager because of a TripAdvisor review? It's an incredible way to create a positive world and, again, actually do those networking things. Again, I saw a whole bunch of you taking pictures when I had those books up there. Well, if you notice, if anybody's following on Twitter, I'm live tweeting all of those resources right now as I'm speaking. A parlor trick that I picked up in 2009. All of this has evolved and can be of help to us in the way that we connect. Tools like LinkedIn and others that can connect us and be the anchor to the work that we want to do can be powerful. Just change your settings. People always say to me, Paul, I don't like LinkedIn because every time I change anything, it tells my whole network I've changed jobs. And then my boss freaks out and everybody freaks out. You can change the settings on that. Give yourself permission to make it about you and not about everybody else. It's an important part of all of this. One of the joys of my life is helping students learn about networking and community and here on campus. And when I work with alumni, they often tell me a university is like the universe before the Big Bang. It's all here. As many of you alumni know, when we go out into the world, very often we'll find ourselves in industries, associations, and companies that have groupthink and only think one way. While you are here, especially as a student, you are going to meet the kind of diversity you may never see again in your life. Not just the shallowness of the skin, but intellectual diversity, diversity of thought and ability and potential. You need to stick with those people as the universe explodes and expands past graduation. You might go into spaces and places that are incredibly isolating, like pay-to-play associations or Markham. So many of us get trapped in our castles, our lives, and our families after the big bang of graduation. You may make life choices, like the one ring to rule them all, or make other terrible life choices, like start having children who are awful because they got to eat like every day. And actually, one of the things that nobody tells you is how much you're going to love them. And love them with a desperation. For many of us, me included, it changes the gravity of what you think about the power of your career. You need support through those life ages and stages. We need to keep in touch from campus to community to retain all those people. Look, everybody needs these things, this list here. And everyone I got through the community. All of my doctors, dentists, everybody, even my mechanic is an alumni. Because this is a community that we know and trust. And frankly, these people who pulled me out of the bushes at Frosh Week or in Russian fraternities, I know I can trust. We have those different things. Look, I'm the little drummer boy. I only have like 1 or 2 skills in this life. One of them is public speaking. And as such, I've emceed about 30 weddings. And helping my friends and family with that skill, and we each have a skill to give. Let's dive into those superpowers so that we can enjoy them more. You know, the person who started my whole career was Maria Gallo. She plucked me out of the student call center and said, you should think about a job in this work, about building community and aligning capital around it. She was the head of the student society, the Blue Crew, when I was at school, and she was all about building community. She is now a global expert in building community through alumni. We can all do that, not just here at U of T, but everywhere, to dive deeper into our communities and strategically build them. I want to give you a couple of case studies in how I've done this, and hopefully you can start dreaming about how you can build and have more fun with networking. One of the joys of my life is the alumni program here at the university called Dinner with 12 Strangers. And I've been hosting these dinners for over a decade, and I, frankly, don't have a home that can accommodate 12 or anything. But I do own an 80-acre farm. Anybody here who's an alumni, you also own that farm. Who knows about Hart House Farm? Anyone? Very few hands. It's an 80-acre farm. Donated to help students get off campus. It's a working maple syrup farm. It has crystal spring ponds. The Finnish Society of U of T built a sauna there. It can sleep 80 plus. And that's actually where, in that wonderful kitchen, I learned to cook when I was a student. And now, I bring a busload of 50 students up there at a time. And I teach them, yes, about LinkedIn and networking, but I also teach them life skills like how to cook. And then, we break bread together. We don't just network, we break bread together and we talk with each other and not at each other. Anybody else would like a little bit more of that in their lives? We need to break out of all these controlled spaces and give ourselves the creativity to connect. Volunteerism is a really big part of this. You know, when I was working at a big institution, I was hauled into the vice president's office and they said, do you know this guy? And I said, yeah, I know this guy. He's Dougie. He actually volunteers with me at my church kitchen. We run Toronto's Out of the Colds, and he chops onions for me. And they said, well, you don't talk to him anymore. He's a VIP at a big Canadian bank, and he said he knows you, and you're not cleared to talk to him, son. I said, well, we have a problem, because Dougie's real good at chopping onions. I didn't even know he worked at a bank, and unless you're going to come chopping onions with me, something's got to give. And they said, fine, you can keep talking with him. Now, to be honest, I actually thought Dougie was a crazy old guy who kept on trying to give me management advice. And I'm like, Dougie, chop the onions. Did I listen to Doug's management advice a little bit more after learning that? You bet I did. And all of these places in which we are giving has an incredible ability to give back. And now, after a decade of inviting these students to these wonderful places, some of them have started relationships. Some of them have started businesses. But wonderfully enough, they all have that connection. One of the first powerful TED Talks I ever watched was Nilofer Merchant's walking meetings. Let's get those meetings outside. And so for now a few years, I run every summer something I like to call net walking, networking while walking. Look, we got to get out of the offices and frankly, also all of the power-separated pay-to-play spaces many of us inhabit. And so I run this walk, and I deliberately don't invite my established network. I want to meet strangers, in this case often of purpose, who are referred by that network, and we walk. But let me tell you, it's a workshop still, and I make them real uncomfortable. You know what I do? I get them in a circle, and I make sure that they've got to introduce themselves, and they're not allowed to use their title. Watch the executives squirm. They worked half their lives for that title, and now I can't use it? How many of us have our identities wrapped up in our associations and titles? My community built me, and I was waiting for years for them to acknowledge me, and that wasn't going to happen, and so I acknowledge myself. Am I a weirdo who has a tattoo on my arm of my business association? Yes. But I didn't need them to recognize me. We can recognize ourselves. And so every summer when we walk, we connect with each other, and we can do that. We can do that anywhere. Netwalking can be done anywhere, any gathering of people, and I encourage you to think how you will release networking from conferences, pay-to-play spaces, windowless rooms. If there's anything I've learned on my very short reconciliation journey with the people of this land, it is the power of reconnecting with nature and the humanity of who we are in their millennia-old wisdom, which they are kind enough to share. There's power in all of this. You know, one of the more interesting things in the space is how we actually have mentors. I just kicked off my college's mentoring program last week, and I don't like the concept of just one mentor. Now, I also don't like the concept of work as family. Another ew. Whenever the people describe their workplace as a family, I'm like, listen, I'm trying to get paid. I'm not trying to get adopted. I already have a family, and they enough trouble as it is. It's important for us to figure out how we can create these networks for ourselves, and I would propose to you that you do not need just one mentor, but a personal board of directors. Just like a company or a nonprofit, you need people around you, people in front of you, people behind you, colleagues, frankly, who you're competing with, and you can help spur each other on. So let us take a great example from a person who is globally known to represent the concept of chosen family. And his name is Dominic Toretto. Only half of you laughed. I know that you're watching these Fast and the Furious movies because they made 75 of them. In the last movie, they shot a Pontiac Fiero into space. It was ludicrous. But I digest. The fact is that Dominic started as a street racing punk, and as his scope and scale increased, he picked up people along the way of different skills and abilities, and they bound themselves together by the work that they do. We're allowed to do that. You're allowed to create that personal board of directors of people of great skill who can help you in that. But again, that's taking. How do we give back? I introduced to you the golden crabs. It was a weird idea I came up with about 10 years ago, simply to say to the people who made my life worth living that I was grateful. Raised as the children of immigrants, I have productivity problems, and I cannot eat without reading something, listening to a podcast. There's always learning. However, if anybody here has ever eaten crabs, you know that you need to focus. Because if you ain't focused, you're going to get it in the eye. And I asked myself, who are the people in my life like that? Who make me focus? Who make the experience more rich? And I thank them. Every year, I choose 4 people who changed my life, who made my life worth living, and who had the generosity to also let me help them. When a young person who we both know is going to be the future of our profession, and they let you be their job reference, they let you work with them to help them build their career, and you know they're going to run your industry one day. The concept of legacy to me in success is not having my name on the side of a building. It's having my name on the backs of all these wonderful careers where I can serve them in that place. You know, if you looked at my recommendations right now on LinkedIn, they're actually kind of like my depression meds. When I am in the darkness and I worry if I'm having impact, I read those. And I ask people often, if I've helped you, just write one of these for me. Partially so that people know I'm real and I'm not trying to steal your organs, which is what people often think when you try to help them with no offer of take. But also so that I remember that I did have an impact in the careers of incredible people. We have the ability to lay these breadcrumbs, but also let us be the people we want to be and surround ourselves with the people that we know we want to be around in this life. Give yourself permission to not always have to be around the people that you do or don't want to. This is an incredible place. And I'll tell you, I didn't actually do that well in school. I remember the registrar saying to me, wow, you're writing for the varsity, you're involved in college programs, you do so much. How do you have the time? And I said, well, I just don't let those classes get in the way. I wouldn't say it ended up great on the academic side, but I left here with a spouse for life, with great friends, with a definition of career, and with an incredible community to rely on. Remember, especially those of you who are still in school, this is not just about a degree or a piece of paper. Education and knowledge is so much more. Get into Hart House. Get into the different places on this campus and programs. Let your weirdness be a thing. Look, some people are on their feet. No judgment. And whatever makes you a superpower, whatever fuels your curiosity, go deep into that. Because you don't know when that could be your future, your career, your job. You know, most people don't even know the fancy Latin phrase that sits on U of T's logo, Velu Arbor Evo. What it actually means is a tree with the passage of time. And to you, those young people here, I encourage you to let your roots grow deep into the amazing things we have to offer on this campus. And to you alumni, let your branches reach for the sky, but build together in this community. The wrong word was networking. The right word is community. The dumbest thing anybody ever said was, it's not personal, it's just business. Well, when you fire me and I can't feed my family, that's as personal as it gets. You're darn right we can do this for ourselves. We need to give ourselves permission to do it that way. Change your settings for you. Be comfortable in this. Do what you want to do and don't do what you don't want to do in this space so that it'll work for you and build the community that you know is the right fertile ground for you to do your best. You know, kind of don't even want to talk about this, but it's real life. When I booked this talk a couple of months ago, right after that, on a Wednesday afternoon, with no warning, my mom died. And I'm still early in that grief journey, and most people don't even know that I'm actually an incredibly private person. All you see in this space is what I want you to see, because that's how comfortable I am. However, as I reflect in this grief, I find myself asking, why my mom is gone, so many crappy people are still here. I saw an incredible tweet the other day from an account called Introvert Problems, and it said, have you ever met someone that you know you want to spend the rest of your life without? Give yourself permission to let go of these people. You know, I grew up a churchy kid, and we used to always sing this song, This Little Light of Mine. How's the rest of that go? Give yourself permission to let your shine and let your light be fueled by whatever it is that needs to fuel you. Not what they want, but who you want to be. Because if we let our light shine the way that we know that it can shine its brightest, and we stop thinking about networking, and we start focusing on community, perhaps we will find the radiance that we seek.